Further debate? I recognize the member from Scarborough-Guildwood.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. It's always an honour to rise in this House to speak to the legislation that is before the House and to have this debate. Madam Speaker, the Ford government is becoming reliant on omnibus bills that are loaded with fundamental changes that are impacting all Ontarians. And Bill 66 is a prime example, an act to restore Ontario's competitiveness by amending or repealing certain acts. And it's doing just that. Schedule 9 of Bill 66 is a complete and utter affront to the rights of workers across this province. It is one thing for a government to take away sick days, as this government has just done. It is quite another for this government to remove the very bargaining rights and collective agreements that function to protect workers from exploitation, from unsafe work environments, and corporate greed by unilaterally changing employer status. The government should be removing Schedule 9 from Bill 66 entirely. Alternatively, if Schedule 9 is to remain, the government owes it to the people of this province to clarify whether existing collective bargaining agreements will be honoured and maintained, even as the designation of the various employers shifts. Some of these collective agreements have been in place with the City of Toronto, universities, go back further than 50 years. At the absolute least, these agreements should continue to be honoured by the employers and by this province. The government's removal of the previous Section 10, as we've been debating, of Bill 66 and its Greenbelt development provisions shows that they will yield to pressure if our voices come together loudly and clearly. I've spoken to individuals from trade unions across this province, and it is clear that the Schedule 9 moves to release certain entities from the collective agreements, and it will only serve to hurt workers and to hurt businesses in the process. Madam Speaker, Bill 66 is yet another example of an omnibus bill that this government is jamming through the legislative process. Omnibus bills serve to stifle the voice of individual issues, as the sheer amount of change that is present in them don't give us enough time to provide scrutiny, to debate, that each of them would deserve. And Schedule 9 and its amendments to the Labour Relations Act is a clear example of a massive shift and change to the current regulations, and that change is being hidden, buried in the depths of this bill. Passing Schedule 9 of Bill 66 would not only restrict the rights of workers, it would serve to threaten the collective bargaining rights that employees and unions have already worked so hard to hammer out, some for many decades, as I've stated. Passing this legislation would be akin to taking a collective bargaining agreement in your hands and just tearing it up. Under Bill 66, Schedule 9, universities, municipalities, and other employers would move from construction employer designation to non-construction employer designation. This will open up the number of spots for eligible bidders on any contract extended by the employer, and will inevitably function as a race to the bottom for contractors who are willing to go lower and lower with wages, minimal benefits, maybe even standards that are associated with maintaining the health and the safety across work sites. Competition, absolutely, is healthy for business, and it is important for our economy. But the sheer lack of protections that comes from a completely deregulated bidding structure will not benefit the workers and the people of this province. It actually creates more instability for businesses and the employers themselves. Unions having a long history of putting time and effort into the training of their members. Example for the apprentices. The union's completion rate is 95 to 98%. However, the total completion rate for all apprentices is actually closer to 50%. So if you look at this from the perspective of those within the unions, those who are not, who are going through that process, that threshold is well below 50% for non-union. And if Schedule 9 is passed, it will prevent more apprentices from gaining access to valuable opportunities. The union's investments in training do not stop at the apprenticeship level. As one example, the Carpenters Union represents 25,000 members across the province. And this union collects $1.10 from every member for every hour of work to go to training exercises and to resources. It actually is a kind of continuous improvement that they're making to their workplace. This is the kind of investment that is important and vital to good business. Safe work environments with properly trained and certified employees are what we should be striving for. These unions have invested in an environment of continuous improvement that benefits all of us. Ontario's record of completion of large-scale construction projects with a record of safety is well regarded around the world. We need to do all that we can to maintain and to uphold these standards. I want to highlight what experts in the industry call union safety effect. Unions play an integral role in the improved occupational health and safety outcomes. And what does this look like? It means that respected collective bargaining rights result in less injuries and a more secure work environment for workers. It means that unions bring less time and efficiency loss for employers by having well-trained employees. Safe work environments are a win-win situation for workers and employers alike. So I want this government to explain why they are outrightly objecting to safer work environments by going down this path. Is this engaging in union busting? Is this undermining the role of our labour unions? Since they were elected, the Ford government has continuously pitted employees against employers. This actually started with cancelling the minimum wage increase that was scheduled to happen on January 1st, 2019. These two groups should not be on opposite ends of the debate on Schedule 9 on Bill 66. The labour supply argument is an important one to discuss. If Bill 66 passes and a slew of public entities begin consideration of non-construction employers, the collective bargaining rights of many employees will be completely ignored. Unions help to guarantee that there will be a supply of trained, available labourers for any construction project that may arise. However, with an increase in open shop employment, that has no guarantee on labour numbers or hours available. There is absolutely no accountability to the employers themselves. This actually raises the uncertainty for the employers. Will their projects get done on time and within costs? Bill 66, Schedule 9, threatens the stability of employers' construction and maintenance requests and therefore threatens the livelihood and the success of their operations. Bill 66 would amend the Labour Relations Act to deem several public entities, including municipalities, school boards, hospitals, universities, and colleges, among others, to be non-construction employers. Due to population density, this move would seriously impact Toronto and the surrounding Greater Toronto-Hamilton region. I recently spoke to members of a local trade union, and these unions have long-standing contracts with the City of Toronto, with the Canadian National Exhibition, and the University of Toronto. And they are concerned. They are worried about the impact of this legislation. This government is all about cuts, cuts, cuts. But clearly, someone is not crunching the right numbers. A key aspect of government spending is, of course, through pension plans. unions, through dues, are able to provide their retired employees pensions through their own schemes. What does this mean? While unionized labour might be slightly more expensive in the short term, unionization actually saves government's money in the long run through using their own resources to provide retired employees with their well-earned and deserved pension. These unions provide a standard of work that benefits the workers, the employers, and the broader community. If Bill 66 is passed, entities such as municipalities and universities will legally be allowed to wiggle out of collective bargaining agreements and will be able to hire non-unionized workers. These non-unionized workers, also known as non-tenderized or open shop workers, they have to work many more hours than union members only to qualify for less benefits. Aside from fostering safer work environments, as well as stabilizing the labour supply, unions are an integral part of our communities as well. Just recently, the International Union of Painters and Allied Trades actually went out into the community and provided their services to a local organization, the Jamaican Canadian Association, during Black History Month. I actually participated in this environment. There were retirees, union workers, apprentices. I even met a young man who was thinking of getting into the trades. And this strong support for local communities and giving back is part of their tradition. The Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms promises freedom of association, and it includes the right to collective bargaining. By shifting public entities such as universities into the non-construction employer category and strongly affecting union members who are direct employees of these entities, Bill 66, Schedule 9, presents an infringement on the Charter of every single individual living in Ontario. By attempting to pass this as law, the government is ensuring that, as one trade union member said to me, only the lawyers will profit. Lastly, I want to ask the government for some answers. What happens to union members who are direct employees of public entities that will be moving into the non-construction employer designation? What happens to their pensions, their benefits, and their positions? For all its talk on competitiveness, this government has done so very little to explain the mechanisms through which this legislation will supposedly benefit employees. The benefits are incredibly difficult to see from where we're sitting and from where the thousands of union members across this province are sitting. Madam Speaker, I also want to take a moment to talk about another section in this omnibus bill. And as I said earlier, when you bury the legislation that is really vital to a particular sector in the middle of a bill, sometimes things get missed, and we can't afford to miss this one. And that is the child care section. In 2004, the Ontario Ombudsman's report, it's 143 pages, and it includes advice, and it's really a cautionary tale for all of us. In the executive summary, it starts, every weekday, hundreds of thousands of working parents in Ontario entrust their children to the care of others. Unfortunately, some children are placed at unnecessary risk in unlicensed and illegally operated childcare centres, often hidden behind the closed doors and shuttered windows of private homes. The dangers associated with these childcare arrangements were brought into sharp focus over a 7-month period in 2013 to 2014. 4 young children died in unlicensed childcare settings in the Greater Toronto area. Madam Speaker, we should never have to face this again in our province. And the Ministry of Education's weakening of the ratios for childcare is of great concern. If we look at page 11 of the bill, Schedule 3, we see the amendments that are being referred to, striking out 2 children, substituting 3, striking out 4 children, substituting 6 children, striking out 2 children, substituting 3 children, and it goes on and on. It places young children, toddlers, babies in homes that have more children and less adults, and in some instances, fewer certified individuals overseeing that quality of that childcare. I understand we need to increase access to more affordable childcare. We know how costly childcare is. In my own riding of Scarborough-Guildwood, this is a great need to have quality, affordable, accessible childcare. But we cannot afford, Madam Speaker, it is our duty to ensure that every child is safe across all of our systems that we have responsibility to regulate. And the lowering of these standards by increasing those ratios of the adults in the home to a child is concerning, because it puts children, it puts babies at risk. You know, when we were growing up, my younger brother, who was quite a bit younger, he was sent to what was known as the babysitter. And I remember when he was a toddler, there was a day when he actually wandered off and followed the other children in the home to the bus stop because he wanted to go to school as well. The bus driver looked at him and said, "Well, you're not on my list to pick up," and actually drove away and left him at the bus stop. And he was probably about 2 years old. Luckily, someone found him alone on the street and called the police. And I don't know how this little guy was able to communicate at the age of 2 who his parents were and where he lived. But of course, he was reported missing and there was a big search. My parents were called from work, and this little guy was able to find his way home safely. But that type of care where it's unregulated, without standards, should not be happening in 2019 in our province. We shouldn't be going backwards. We should be strengthening protection for every child. We should be providing the best training, the best standards to make sure that every child has that safety and that protection when they are in a childcare setting. And I know that we need more spaces. We need access to more spaces. We need quality childcare. But lowering the standards, I believe, is the wrong approach, because it puts the situation where there will be a greater number of very young children, babies, toddlers, potentially in a home with many other children who are not captured by the ratio and just one adult in that home. So we have to reconsider that and do everything possible to maintain and to uphold the standards. And I hope that the Minister of Education has taken the time to really look at the Ombudsman's report. And, you know, it's 143 pages. I've only read you a paragraph and a half. But it is a cautionary tale, one in which we should all be very, very mindful of. And finally, Madam Speaker, in my last few seconds, just want to say that, you know, there's much more contained in this omnibus bill, and I know that the debate that has been ensuing has really pointed out that these are fundamental changes to that will affect all Ontarians, and they need to be considered carefully. And this government should not use its majority to jam through legislation that is going to be harmful to our labour unions, to their workers, to to employers themselves, and but rather, if you are interested in restoring Ontario's competitiveness, and I would argue that Ontario continues to be competitive, then you would provide us legislation that helps to build us up, not down.